In the last video, I said I will have a plan when I return. I will save you the brutal details, but I have the dimensions within a half foot for each ice depth on this diagram. These numbers don't mean a whole lot right now. I believe my drill bit bottomed out a couple times, so that must have been around the 2.5 inches mark, because those are the highest figures I see around here. 1.5 inches is the target zone. One obvious conclusion is that there is almost certainly a high spot in the concrete in the deceptively high corner, because that's 1.29 inches here, and it's this corner, and this is my closest reading to the boards in that corner, besides this one, but it's I've noticed it in this part. My thought process with this ice depth map was to analyze how ice depths change throughout critical spots of my ice sheet, which came to be the corners. So I've got 5 spots here. This is 11.5 feet by 11.5 feet into the ice from this corner. And all of these that are like touching this line, this is 6 inches off. So I got 5 per corner here, all the way around. The perimeters of my creases, so this is 6 inches off the boards directly behind my crease. The foot of my crease, the head of my crease, and the 2 sides of my crease. And then I do it over here as well for 5 more. Approaching the boards on the long straightaways, so here and here. And then 4 center ice readings. Now this is coming off of my player benches, so I'm thinking that this can kind of be a control more or less, because there's no reason this location would have any high usage, whereas right here, this is high usage. Each month, I'll analyze my 4 weekly ice depth readings and if or how my weekly treatments will change. Now that we've covered the mind-numbing stuff, here's what I filmed for this week.
Hello there. So, instead of being in at my normal, ridiculously early hour, I am here at my unusual, ridiculously late hour. It's just after midnight. But I thought I opened on Saturday and Sunday, and I don't, and I did not film. Today is Friday. I didn't film today because I've got a cold, and I was dead to the world this morning. I was not going to get up an extra hour early, but here I am because I'm haunted by the state of Rink 3. Just before Thanksgiving, we put a new board brush on the machine on 3, and usually I like to just run it on dry land and let the bristles get broken in, but that didn't happen, and I spent like 5 hours here on Thanksgiving doing maintenance, but it must have been on Tuesday or Wednesday that we replaced the brush. The boards weren't carved out yet, but we found ourselves in a situation where the new board brush was so stiff that it carved out the boards on the long straightaways on Rink 3, and we have a very huge tournament this weekend, cuts after the second period and at the end of the game, and so the boards are in a bad spot. So I'm going to go ahead and clean up the boards, run the edger along it to kind of outline where the spots are that I need to hit, and then super thoroughly slush them in. So I'm probably going to take a bunch of still photos on my phone. I think if I try to hold the camera and zoom in, it'll just be shaky and a mess, but I'll bring you along a bit. I'll show you what I got. Guess who forgot the mini tripod? I did.
As I just mentioned, I edged the problem area. This cuts a level plane along the boards and allows me to accurately survey the topography. This doesn't just help the camera pick up what needs to be addressed. For me, the contrast is night and day. I always edge before slushing in my boards. Here are a couple of still shots of the carved out ice against the boards, as well as some shaky video of the problem area. Real quick, I want to share a hypothesis of mine. When I opened on Friday, which was prior to the start of the tournament, I know that the boards in front of the player benches were incredibly carved out, much like the opposite side that I showed a clip and still images of. I also know that rinks 1 and 2 had huge amounts of ice buildup on the boards in front of the player benches by the time I left in the early afternoon on Friday. I believe the reason for that buildup is twofold. First, the hockey players carved up so much ice that the board brush couldn't remove it all in one pass. Floodwater from the Zamboni would then reach the finely powdered ice and create slush at the boards right in front of the player bench. The second factor is that players were returning to the playing surface before the ice had completely set up, skating up to the benches and stopping abruptly and inadvertently throwing slush into the boards against the player benches. While this resulted in huge buildup for rinks 1 and 2, this ended up patching the boards on rink 3. I'm not saying that I'm right, but if I am, doesn't that kind of paint a beautiful picture of a rinked ecosystem? Yeah, that last segment got a little bit long-winded. Here I'm just chipping away the board to finish cleaning it up before I patch it in with slush. Now I finally begin slushing in the boards. I ladle slush into carved out spots and pack it in with a hockey puck. Then I run the hockey puck along the top to flatten it out. This is not meant to be perfectly level, just close enough so that running the edger doesn't feel like taking a lawnmower through a boneyard.
So I had some pretty slushy slush. I don't probably need to water it, but I am going to water it just to be extra precautious. Help it freeze in. When it gets edged and shaved out in the morning, it should look a lot better. Hold up a lot better too. Oi, don't forget to hydrate. Cool. Now what I'm going to do is a resurface without my board brush and let it freeze overnight. Okay, I'm sorry, but it's late and I'm a little tired, so I'm just going to walk up to the spots I slushed. From here you can probably see, yeah, so it needs to be chipped in the morning. You can see all the slush from here and the standing water it looks like around it. But that's why I wanted to do this at night, give it all night to freeze. This dark spot is the spot that was really beat up. And I slushed it in pretty good. You know, you can see bolts right here by the door and then top of bolts. So I slushed it to pretty much top of bolts. Years ago, I saw someone on the internet refer to a daddy long legs as father lengthy gams. And I think about that at least once daily. If I ever make it into the NBA, you can call me father lengthy gams. Don't worry, I'm actually fine. Object permanence, learn it. What's handy is, if it's not that bad, one scoop of slush goes pretty far away. And it's not super bad right here.
And actually, the player benches aren't bad at all. I think that they're tearing up so much. We had so much snow, and I know for a fact we had to chip 1 and 2 in front of the player benches because there was so much snow built up. The board brush couldn't get it all in one pass. The water gets in, it turns into slush. You come, you skate up when the cut's over, and you splash that all the way up on the kick plate. So I know Ring 2 had over a ½ inch of ice built up, and I chipped it before we started the day. But I think all of that slushiness actually patched the player bench side, because it's really just between the 2 player benches and the scorekeeper's box that's bad, which is awesome. That is way less work for me, which is great, because I work at 7 a.m.